started.
Sorry, the real killer was the enemies we made along the way.
That was fun.
I think definitely should deal cards now.
I'm not going to stop recording. I'm just going to run this one back in.
Fresh.
Back in.
Fresh and gory.
Fresh and gory. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board Game Gateway podcast, episode number 15. Tonight on this spooky eve, we're recording on... Thank you, Blake. Thank you for going there with that one. We're recording on Halloween Eve, or Halloween night, I guess, not Halloween Eve.
It's Halloween.
We're recording on Halloween. Yeah, but it's the eve of Halloween.
He doesn't get out
that's the night
much,
before.
okay?
Oh, God, my hosting...
Christmas Eve is the night before Christmas, not Christmas night.
He doesn't get out much, okay? Just
No,
let us know.
I really don't. This is my social interaction for the week. My name is Neba, and I'm your host for this evening, and I'm joined by my three hosts tonight. We've got Blake.
Hello.
Oh,
I feel like you ruined my joke now by introducing it that way.
Mr. Ralph.
Hello, everyone.
And Mr. Matt.
Hello.
He had me giggles over there.
I think Matt, you're the first one to die in a horror movie, I think.
Oh, for sure.
He's
Every
Mr.
time.
Where is he hiding? Can you hear him laughing?
Hello.
I said last week, or was it the week before, that I want to play the game where I can just hide in a cupboard. That's my whole plan, right? I'll find the smallest cupboard I can and get back cramps, but no one's finding me.
And this is the first time joining us for the Board Game Gateway podcast. We are your entryway into board gaming, tabletop gaming, and fun times. And tonight, possibly spooky times.
Oh, God. I hate it already.
It's going to be one of those episodes tonight. We are here to bring you... tonight, we're going to bring you some of the games that we've played over the past week. We are then going to be taking you through our board game, our gateway game of the week, which this week is the game Horrified. And then we're going to be taking you through... Our theme of the episode is Halloween, obviously. If you haven't picked that up, our theme of the episode is Christmas. Deal with it.
It's like Nightmare Before Christmas now.
Exactly right.
What's this?
Exactly right. No, but it's Halloween, and we're going to be taking you through some games that are horror-themed, kind of... Games that'd be fun to play on a Halloween party. But look, we've just finished playing a couple of games, which we'll get to in a moment. But this is episode 15, so we're moving along, chugging along quite nicely. But let's go through some of the games that we played last week. And this week, we're going to start with you, Matt. We're going to start with you with a game that you've played in the previous week.
Finally got to put Isle of Cats on the table with Anthony and his lovely wife.
Why do you keep calling me Anthony in a podcast? You never do that in real life. But just
I don't know why.
As soon as the
It's
camera,
very formal.
As soon as the
Tonight,
camera, it is.
we always say Anthony.
Oh, please don't. Only one person in this world can get away with calling me Anthony on a regular basis, and it's his mum.
Oh,
and Zanimar.
Like, aren't you Anthony on the website? Or
No, I'm Neba. I'm Neba on the website, mate.
We need to update that.
Look, I only just found out we had a website last night, so that's, I'll have to check it out.
Don't ask him what he was searching for when he found us.
Oh man, well, number one trending on.
So you got.
So we played Isle of Cats on Wednesday night, which was awesome. What's it called? Tetromino?
Tetromino?
That's the word.
Or polyomino, whatever the idea is. Yeah.
We're putting Tetris pieces down, which have pictures of cats on our ship, and trying to fill in the ship as best we can. Apparently, you guys have talked about the actual gameplay in a previous episode, which I wasn't part of. But I found I loved the game. It was very colourful, easy to grab hold of. My biggest, I wouldn't say not a gripe or anything, but I came away thinking, I've seen this game on shelves in Zing for the last 2 or 3 years, I think it's been, right? So it's actually quite a prominent game, usually, in most game stores, and I've never wanted to even pick it up, because it's called Isle of Cats, and I just don't give a shit about cats at all.
You're a dog person,
I
aren't you?
really do not. Look, it's not that I hate cats, I just don't. They're just useless
I'm the
animals.
same. I'm a dog person, right? So I haven't been around cats a lot. The game doesn't interest me just on the theme.
Yeah, that's
it
right.
It sounds like a great game.
Oh, look, the gameplay was great fun. And not to turn any cat lovers who may be tuning in off our podcast, but they're useless animals. They're really just dogs without personalities. That's all cats are. Look, the
Hang on, Neva looks like he's about to cry.
half our audience just turned off.
I think so.
We had 4 cats at one point when we were growing up, as well as our dog, but we were primarily cat people. I would say, like, I own a dog now, so I love dogs, don't get me wrong.
Look, my whole family, mum and dad, Bernie, they're all cat people.
Yeah, they all own dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, we played that. It was quite good. It is one of those games though that. So for if you've never played either cats, basically you're trying to save cats, put them on your boat, and all the cats they like to lie in funny positions. So therefore they're all in different.
Even that. Why am I saving these cats? Right? Like I was trying to lose the whole game. No,
We're trying to evict them from the ship.
But there is a point of the game though which you don't expect when you come into it, because the idea of the game is that they sell the game based on you're putting cats Tetris style into your boat, trying to fill up the boat as best you can with treasure and cats. However, there's an entire different phase of the game which happens every round for the 5 rounds, which is there's actually a draft phase where you're given a whole bunch of cards, and those cards determine a whole bunch of things such as victory points. They determine, we've talked about it before, but they determine initiative order, victory points, private victory points. They also determine...
I liked that. The thing I liked most about the game actually was what they call the lessons. So the objectives, really. So there's public objectives and there's private objectives, and the actual objectives that we're playing aren't just, have 5 cats or something like that. Like there are a couple of pretty simple ones, but there are a couple where it was like, have only 6 objective cards played or something like that, right? Which
have it get 2 points for every cat that's touching the outside of your boat.
They were very specific, right? There weren't as many, 5 or more, right? Like these, like open-ended kind of things where once you've hit the finish line, you are okay. It was no. Once you hit the finish line of that objective, you can't have any more of that. Otherwise, you'll fail the objective. I kind of liked that. I don't think I've ever played a game where they had a almost like a dead end mechanic built into those objectives, where because you could end up having to draw something that then stuffed your entire gameplay up. I didn't get to that point with the game, but I could see in a larger setting with maybe 4. Is it play to 6? Is it?
It plays at 4 on the base game, but there is an expansion that does bounce it up to 6, and that's why one of the reason the objective cards are like that though is because you gain victory points based on sets of cats you have touching each other. So the more cats in a family, quote unquote, that you have touching each other, the more they're worth. So one of the victory points the lessons that we kept throwing around was like, have exactly 6 cats in a family. You can have up to 10, and that's worth a lot of victory points. But if you want to score this lesson, you have to stop at 6, no more, no less. And so you're right, there is...
What I came out of the game thinking was, I don't know how the hell Georgie managed to nearly fill every single square on her.
I don't know how she did that either.
I had this scraggly bunch of cats that was just snaking their way through my ship with so much dead space that it wasn't using, and she had, 10 squares that just she couldn't fill. We're playing the same game. How did that even happen?
Well, a lot of the game comes down to as well, there are different treasure cards that you can get. So there's these treasure pieces which are like a 4 straight, a 3 straight, a 2 straight, like an elbow and a 1. So these are your minor, and then there are these major. So you also have like different options to take, which is, do I want to take treasure to get victory points and get these kind of put them on the boat, and I sacrifice not having cats. There's a lot of interesting decisions to be made when playing Isle of Cats.
It plays in about an hour, does it?
Yeah, thereabouts. And I don't see it actually being any longer, even at a higher player count, because the draft doesn't really take any longer with more players.
And once again, it was another game where you're playing your own solitaire. Really, there is some interplay with the other players on board, but it's certainly not as cutthroat competitive as other games are. So
it sounds really cool.
I enjoyed it. It was good fun. It's a big style game, so filled the board up with lots of colour and movement, lots of things to touch. And
the box has no right being as big as it is. It's
a huge box.
Yeah, but it's a huge box for that game. The game could easily fit in a box half the size. But part of the reason why on the underside of the Isle of Cats lid, there's literally a target that says "Cat sits here." So it's basically like the designer of the game had a cat and they like to sit in the box, so they actually just put something on things like, hey, put it upside down, let your cat sit in the box.
Cat lovers.
Anyway,
but no, I would rate the game. The gameplay was good. It was good fun to play and finally get to the table. It was good.
Did you try sitting in the box?
I did.
I told him not to because I wanted my lid to still be intact.
I got a cheek in.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. Yeah.
I told him not to go any further, for the love of God.
Fair
Then I
enough.
just sat there coughing up furballs the rest of the
What
day.
I love seeing is Gloomhaven box is huge, and you see photos online. People are sitting in it like they're a cat.
Yeah, but it was a good time. All right, so then we'll move from Matt, who played Isle of Cats, which was a good experience. We're going to move to you, Ralph, for what you played in the last week.
Yeah, so I had a quick solo game during the week of Concordia, which is actually really good because the AI is really easy to manage. So I highly recommend that. But what I really got to do this weekend was spend some time with my niece and nephew. They're about 15, around that age bracket. And we got to play Clank, a deck building adventure, which is where you're all like noble heroes and you're trying to go into a castle, then into a cave under the castle and rob a dragon. And as you steal artifacts from the dragon attacks you, and you make noise, which is known as Clank in the game.
Okay.
And the more Clank you make, when the dragon attacks, you make a little cube goes in a section of the map when Clank is made, and it goes into a bag, and there's dragon cubes, and you pull out 4 or 5, so you never know when you're going to die, because that's your health. So when your colored cube comes out, the dragon hits you for 1 health point because you've robbed him. And yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's completely deck building. It plays in under an hour. So I played it with kids around 14, 15, and they slowly learnt the mechanics during the game. They said they liked it. They loved the theme of going in and robbing a dragon, and the items are really cool. Like one of the big point ones is a bunch of bananas the dragon stole. So there's lots of little quirks to it. But we had a lot of fun with it. They didn't quite grasp it at the end of the game because we did scoring, and they were like, oh, why did I only get so many points and you got double that? And I'm like, I've played it before. But they have fun with it. When the cards triggered things, and draw more cards, discard cards, trash cards, they're all new mechanics for them. Even just like, this is your discard pile, and then when you buy a card it goes to your discard. Like, that was all new to them. But they really enjoyed it, and they're keen to give it another go later down the line. So that was pretty cool.
The Clank, like you guys taught. Sorry, I say you guys. You, Damien, and Reese, who are the MacArthur board gaming group, that our local game. You guys taught that to me at one of our events a couple months back. And one of the things which you haven't mentioned, which is that there's a push your luck mechanic here, which is the further into the cave system that you go, the more valuable the treasure.
Yeah.
However, when someone can just go, you know what? I've had enough of adventuring, and go back to the castle. And as soon as they hit the castle on the way back out, the game ends in 1 or 2 more turns or something. Yeah, like that.
4 more turns, and the dragon, every time it gets to that player's turn, they don't have a turn, but the dragon attacks again because they've stolen something. So you can steal something very early and get out of the cave very quickly. But that just puts a clock on the end of the game, and everyone's like, I can go deeper and get more points than them. And then how do I get out? And then you might get stuck. And yeah, so
I like push your luck.
It's really cool. As you go further and further down, you go into different rooms and you find items in there, and you're like, oh, I could do that. That's better. And even as the dragon's attacking me, I found potions that healed me. And
there's a whole bunch of there's a bunch of cool stuff where you can unlock rooms.
Yeah.
But when you unlock a room, you unlock it for everybody. So if you're the first one to unlock it on the way out, people can go, thanks, Ralph. You just unlocked the route for me. Now I can head out and
and you find other baddies in the cave. You get to kill them and get coins and stuff.
See, the thing is about every time I hear Clank, a deck building game, my mind immediately goes to Ratchet and Clank, the PS5, the PlayStation game. Yeah. And the moment when I heard it, I'm like, this doesn't sound like a game that I really want to play.
Well, the theme's completely different.
No, it is. It's 100% different, and I really like it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've only played it 4 or 5 times, but it's such a fun little deck builder. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a Clank, a deck building game. Blake, I know you haven't played much in the past week, so because of work. But is there anything that you want us to talk about, or shall we save your specific one until we get into it?
I because I was on holidays, and the week just gone.
You didn't write this in the document.
I didn't. I only just sort of.
You're Mr. Working Pants. Now he's on holidays.
We do have a document.
I went on holidays from. During the week last
week. So he wasn't even working. What is this?
No.
Didn't take us on holidays.
I feel cheated.
I needed a holiday from you guys.
That's fair enough. That's a fair call.
No, but we went up to the Hawkes River for a week of fishing, relaxing, and I brought a couple of my board games, so we got to play a game of Cryptid, a game of Atmosphere. But the game that I wanted to talk about that we got to play was a game that I found deep in the depths of the game cupboard of this rental place that we were at.
Oh.
I mean, they had the obvious ones in there. They had Monopoly, they had Cluedo, but right in the
Battle
back,
of the Sexes.
I don't know if you've heard of it, but there was this game called Scruples. Has anyone heard of Scruples?
Yes.
No.
It's ringing the bell from my grandma's house.
So it's this little fun.
You're
moral-
blowing his mind right now.
It's like a moral dilemma sort of game. So you will have question cards, a set of question cards in your hand, and you also have a set of answer cards.
Yeah.
So you will have 3 answer cards, and these are the.
I always thought that was a box from Grace Brothers because it's got the black and white checks.
Show me this picture.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, you keep
So
talking.
so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your specific set of answers out of other players on the board. So you'll have questions to answer, and you have to ask another player on the board who you think will answer in the way that you have in your hand.
Yeah.
So you'll have moral sort of questions like if you were cooking in the back of a kitchen and you dropped a piece of steak on the floor, would you just throw it back on the grill and serve it, or things like that? Or if you saw it, would you still eat it if they cleaned it properly? You know, things like that. And you got to answer yes, no, or depends. And if you answer depends, you have to back up your depends how well they cleaned it. You know?
Yeah.
And whether
And what type of steak?
Like,
We're doing minute steak? No, fuck it.
exactly.
Sirloin? Yeah.
I feel
Porterhouse?
like
Yeah.
we should play this on the podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
What's worth a steak?
That's right.
it's a funny little game, but so the base that's the base game. You're just trying to get these answers out of people. Now it says on there are an advanced section of the game where it encourages you to actually bluff your answers. If you think a person's trying to get a certain answer, you can actually just straight up lie in your answer. The only thing is, if someone on the table calls you out on that answer, says, no, you wouldn't.
So this is what I
Then
lied
the
to.
table has to have a democratic vote on whether that person's
Can back up there.
bullshitting.
Yeah.
Oh.
I like it.
We should play this on the pod. I think that sounds fantastic as like a special episode.
It's
Okay.
a fun game.
We have
It was-
Christmas coming up. There's going to be some Christmas specials coming up, I think.
Yes, especially if you've got a couple of drinks. The only thing
Yeah.
is with this game, I would say you can't just play it with anyone. You have to know the people that you're playing with. Otherwise, it's just
Yeah.
You've literally just taken back to my grandparents' house like 20, 25 years ago now, and I can picture Scruples, Greed, Pass the Pigs, a chess set, Monopoly, and I think they had a really bad set of Mousetrap.
I must have rented your grandma's house.
You probably did. It had that really old musty smell to it.
Well, I think I literally pulled it out of the drawer and had blow the dust off it. But apparently there's all sorts of updated versions of this game.
Yeah, I was gonna
think
say-
an app even.
Cool.
Because I just looked on Board Game Geek. It says it's released in 1984, and it's a game about moral dilemmas. So I imagine there'll be questions about the AIDS epidemic or something, like something a little dated.
yeah, well,
Politically
I think
based
the
questions.
updated versions are probably
Richard Nixon comes to your
Yeah.
house. Oh, wow. I know that's well after the
O.J.
80s, but-
Simpson comes over to your house.
There'll probably be some some very racist things that were perfectly okay back then as well. I won't say them right now because we
already have the E-tag, whatever, for this episode, whatever.
I was going to say, you had this at your grandmother's house. Imagine playing it with your grandmother's house, and the question was something like, have you ever participated in an orgy? And your grandmother's like, oh, yes, I did have an orgy. And you're like, is she lying?
No, actually, it'll be the other way around. When she says, no, I haven't, and everyone goes, yeah, I think you have, you old slut. Sorry, Grandma.
Oh, God.
Rest in peace, Grandma.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
No.
Yes, it was a lot of fun to play.
This episode.
They will.
I'm only joking. All right? I'm
Your
sorry.
sister listens to it all the
I
time.
definitely recommend the game if you can find it. I think there's apps online that you can play, but it was a lot of fun for
Yeah, it sounds
not
great.
much of a game.
That's awesome.
I always love a good campfire game, and this is a perfect
Yep.
one you can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of campfire, we're going the exact polar opposite of a campfire because the game that I played this week is I'm going to be talking about a game called Endless Winter. There is a specific word after that, but I cannot remember what it is.
Paleoamericans or
Paleoamericans or something
Yeah.
like that. So Damien, one of my friends, invited myself and Ralph over to his house to play a game of this. This is one of the latest Kickstarter deliveries that has made its way to the Australian shores. I will say that the advantage of living in Australia is that we tend to get Kickstarters first because they all come out of China, and we're in the first shipping wave that comes straight out of China, which is great. But this game is basically... Oh boy, this is going to be a bit of an interesting one to explain. It's basically, we are all playing as
clans of Paleoamericans.
Yeah, clans of those kind of Arctic kind of people in the North American sort of thing.
I think Ice Age.
Ice Age kind of people.
Like Inuit people.
Yeah, Inuit people. That's the exact word that I was looking for. And basically, we are trying to survive the Ice Age. The game plays over 4 different turns, and in those turns, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of number of things, from deck building to monument building to action selection to
worker placement.
Worker placement. There's a whole. This game was essentially described to me as like a point salad for big box games. And point salad, for those of you who don't really understand the terms, point salad is basically just there is so many different ways that you can score, and it's all jumbled up in a big salad sort of thing.
Yeah, like anything you do is going to get you victory points.
Yeah, exactly right. And so the way that you have to work your way through it is obviously you have to pick some sort of strategy and just kind of stick with it and see what happens. So the main crux of the game is that you have an action selection or worker placement variant at the start, and there are 4 different tracks that you can pick. One that focuses on like cards, one that focuses on hunting and killing animals, one that focuses on movement. So there's a whole area control point of this game where you're trying to put towns in a map. We posted images of this on the Board Game Gateway Facebook group earlier in the week, so there's a lot there. And there's another one which allows you to do a whole bunch of things about culling cards and stuff. And basically, you go into one of these actions, you can do I'm saying basically a lot, and I do apologize about that. You can do a whole bunch of basic actions, unlimited amount of times. Then you get an advanced action that you can do once, and then you have a special action that if you're the first one to go into that track, you get essentially the superpower of that. So you do that 4 times, but then in between each 4 times, there's the eclipse phase. And the eclipse phase is essentially any cards that you haven't played from your hand. Some of them have special powers that only activate in this phase, which is kind of the admin phase. I am not going to go much more into this game because we could do an entire episode on this game. Ralph, I want to get your opinions on it after I do it, but I will say from my first playthrough, it was alright. It was okay. It was about 6.5 out of 7. 6.5
Sounds
out
like
of 10.
a lot of game.
It was a lot of game. We played in about 2.5 hours. I will say it was kind of felt like a jack of all trades, master of none for me. Yep. Like, I didn't dislike my time with it, but nothing really went, it was exceptionally good at X. Yep. It was kind of all over the shop. I mean, Ralph, you played it as well. What did you think of the game?
Yeah, similar vibe. It tries to do a lot. It does everything okay, but it doesn't do it like extraordinary. Like, it's a worker placement game, but it had 4 places you can go, so it kind of felt very limiting.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of options there. A very similar vibe for me is a game called A Feast for Odin, which is a massive worker placement game. It has polyamino tiles to it. It's got a great theme. It has something ridiculous like 40 worker placement spots. But it kind of feels sandboxy, where you can, like, you're a Viking and you get to do this, you get to do that. Like, it was really cool. And Endless Winter had a similar vibe where it was very sandboxy, but everything gave you points, so it kind of was hard to focus on a certain avenue you wanted to go. I got very close to winning the game. I felt like I had a pretty good game. I enjoyed it.
I thought you won the game.
I think Damo beat me by like 2.
Right.
Like, I did like the game. I would happily play it again to work it out. It does feel like there's a puzzle there, and there is an optimum way to play. I worked out what I would have done better already to win the game, but it was good. I know a lot of people are very excited for this game because Kickstarter just got funded and everyone's getting it shipped and everything like that. So please don't take our opinions as gospel here. But it was very good. If you like the theme, it there's a lot of game there, and there's a lot of add-on content that we have not explored yet. So we've really only played it once, and we enjoyed our time with it.
Yeah, Damo was showing us some of the extra modules that you could have added. There's a whole roll and write expansion, like where everyone gets their own mini board and then a whiteboard marker, and you're crossing off things like markings on the wall.
Yeah, like cavemen on the walls. And stuff.
But then there's also there's so much going on in this game, and that's why I feel like I want to be very frank that the production quality was fantastic.
It's a great game, and
great artwork.
The value for money was there.
Yeah, great artwork, great replayability, great production values. Like, it has that Scythe-esque sort of thing where you put meeples, and which Scythe kind of popularized what a lot of things are doing now, which is like they have the double layer player board, that they have the sunken layer, so that you can put bits in it and then you remove and then put them back and use your reveal things.
Yeah.
So from a production standpoint, A+, right? I was looking at this game and the color scheme is great, like very like oranges and blues and things that stand out, reds and yellows, so things that stand out. However, by the end of the game though, I got to the end of the game and just kind of felt like I want to play it again. But not one thing is particularly grabbing me. And I think that's kind of one of those cons that you have to be not worried about, but be cautious about with a point salad sort of game.
I wonder if the expansions would either fix it or make it even more so.
I've heard a bit of the expansions. One's got like a river that goes through the main board where you're building your little huts and stuff, but it kind of limits where you can build your huts a bit, but you can actually have a little canoe and go down the river and catch fish and things.
Yeah.
So there's little things that add to the theme of it, but if I'm going to spend 3 hours playing a game, I prefer playing a good game that we know and love, like Feast for Odin. I've only played it like 3 times, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where I just want to be... there's so much stuff like we haven't talked about. There's an area control mechanic about you're moving houses to create villages, and that gives you production. There's also, I mentioned that you're killing animals, but you're not only just killing animals, you're actually collecting sets of animals, and then you have the potential to kill them to get an immediate bonus, like you've skinned them and used their meat for things for your village that you may need now, but you're sacrificing end of game village. So there's so much going on in this game, and the theme kind of, I was like, yep, this is really cool. But at the end of the game, I kind of came out of it going, it was fine. It was good. I had no issues. But nothing made me go, have to play that tomorrow sort of thing. So, look, that was Endless Winter. I am not dissing this game by a long shot, but I'm trepid and a bit cautious about going forward about, and even Damien, he said as well, he was kind of like, and he bought the deluxe edition, so he's got all the bells and whistles, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to probably play it a few more times. But you could tell in his eyes, he's kind of like, and then I'll probably sell it.
Yeah, I could tell he's a bit mixed about it as well. Yeah. It was great for him to have us over and we all got to play it. But that's the thing about having a lot of those big box games, you have to be picky with what you play.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was what we played for the week. So a good breakdown there. But we're going to move on to our theme of the week, which is Halloween games. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be taking this one. Rouse, take it away as we enter our Halloween theme episode.
All right. So I hope everyone's nice and strapped in and scared.
I will be in a second.
So I've one of the things I love about Halloween is I love a good silly joke. And when you see those stupid tombstones that people put together, with a funny message on it, that's always a highlight for me. So I've actually
here we go.
I've actually
all those Catholic graveyards with all those funny words written everywhere.
Well, that's the thing. I'm going to take us down a board game graveyard.
Well, this is serious. Here we go.
All right, this is where all us board gamers will go one day, and we
just wait until the end.
If you hear something nice,
the gamers are going there, or the games?
The gamers. The gamers. Okay. So I've lived my life in real time. All right, that was a terrible one.
Real-time mechanics.
What about the dice were not in my favor? No.
Was that my tombstone?
No, I've got personalized ones for us too. I've lived my life as a meeple in a worker placement. This spot is taken. Find another grave.
I like that. That's good.
That's pretty good.
I like that one.
I like that.
And I went simple, killed by a werewolf. That's not too bad. But I've made some personalized ones. So let's play a game. I'm going to read one out, and you guys have to pick which one of us this one relates to.
Let's go.
All right. Here lies blank. Life is all about the point A to point B.
That's me. That's me.
That's me.
No doubt. I'll take that one. Yeah, that's fair enough.
All right.
It is all about the point A to point B, guys.
All right. How about this? Here lies blank. If I had just one more round, I would have won.
That's me.
Yeah.
You know what? I will actually put that on my actual tombstone as well.
If I had just one more year, you would have seen it
Yeah,
up there.
boy.
All right. Here lies blank. Death, the final upkeep phase. Now let's count my VP.
Blake, that's Blake, 100%.
Now let's count my VP.
I don't know how I did, guys.
All right, and
but look
lastly-
at all my money.
Big combo, big point.
That's
God.
it. That's an add-on to the tombstone for sure. Now you know the last one is me. So here lies Ralph, discarded, waiting for Jesus to reshuffle his draw pile. So that was my my board game graveyard segment.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
Awesome.
But yeah, moving on, we'll go to our gateway game of the week, which is Horrified.
Yeah, Horrified. So this is our game of the week, and we are we just played that tonight. We actually made a recording of it. Now, you won't see a lot of the top down, but if you want to go check it out on our YouTube channel, we are going to be posting the gameplay there. If you just want to see us playing a game and winning, might I add, we all kicked that game's ass.
But enough.
Look, as my
Enough of an ass kicking.
as family Vin Diesel would say, you could win by an inch or a mile. Wait a minute, that was last week's episode. Oh no! Anyway, but Horrified is designed by Prospero Hall, published by Ravensburger, and art also done by the designer Prospero Hall. It was released in 2019, and essentially it is a cooperative horror movie game or horror game where we are all trying to defeat. Ralph, three monsters or four in the harder difficulty?
Yeah, so I guess beginner is 2 monsters. Standard, which we played tonight, was 3 monsters that you play. But you can verse, I think, up to 5 if you like. But there's 6 in the box.
What monsters we played with again? We played
with the Wolfman. The creature from the Black Lagoon. We played with Dracula. And what was the last one we played with? The Invisible Man.
Acula. Okay. So the game basically works is that every turn, each of you play a specific character with a special ability, and then you have a certain amount of actions that you get to be able to do, whether or not it be moving around, moving some non-player characters around, defeating the monster, or trying to do their specific their objectives, which in our case was Dracula. You have to go around the board and destroy his coffins. The lagoon monster, you have to get to his lair, and the Invisible Man, you have to provide evidence that he's actually real to the police, and then go and kill him for some reason.
I swear he's Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
And he would have gotten away with it too. But
the game itself, after every one of your turns, the monsters get a phase, and those monsters do specific things. They move and they attack, and your life is very limited. You get 1 hit point. If you take it, you die. But thankfully, you can collect items. Those items you may need to kill the monsters or do the objectives, but they can also act as your shield. And Matt, you had like 9 items at one point. I think you were really good at getting items.
I was getting away from the monsters and ended up in Itemville, I guess. But no, I really enjoyed the game. It played pretty quickly.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Just to explain the game a bit more, like each monster has a unique thing you have to do. Like Dracula, you got to go to 4 locations on the map. The map is, all different parts of a town, and you have to kill kill all his coffins, his lair, and then you stab him in the heart with a steak knife, sort of thing. So it is quite thematic.
Didn't you just bash him over there with a Bible in this one?
In this one I did, yeah. But all the monsters, they've got a unique perspective about them, which makes it really cool.
Yeah, and so we win if we kill all the monsters.
I like that. Like, it was a good cooperative game.
Yeah.
We weren't playing against each other. We were all... But that adds... And I think it's been a while since we've played a game like that where it's pure cooperation, so you actually have to be aware of everyone else's talents and their abilities. And I think it took a couple of rounds before we were like, oh yeah, okay, cool. We can use someone else's talents to get where we need to go.
What was your ability? Do you remember?
I could move any hero, which was our players, or any NPC an extra space, like anywhere on the board.
Which is really mine was I could move anywhere into another. I could move to another hero. So my character was called the Courier. So basically, one of my actions could be to take items from one hero, move to another hero immediately and give them the items. So my guy was really good at moving around the board very quickly and giving items to one another. Ralph, you just had the mare, didn't you?
Yeah, I did the really simple one, which is just take 5 turns instead of 4 or 3. Every character.
That extra turn, though, mate, that's really useful when you get an extra turn.
It is quite valuable. I find with games like that, it's easy to do a thing called quarterbacking, where I can like see what to do and I just tell everyone what to do. But I tried not to do that, so you guys had like the full experience of it all. But Blake, how'd you go with the game?
Yeah, I really liked it. Much better than our first attempt at it. But,
Why? What happened in the first game, Blake?
well,
Please do tell the audience what happened in our first game.
Anthony.
Oh, he used my full name. I'm in trouble. Oh, no.
He was marked by playing with the werewolf, or Michael J. Fox, if you will, in this one, Teen Wolf. And he decided to move. He was displaying the same character. He could move to us, so he decided to move to us.
We were trying to get the Lagoon monster. They were on the camp, and I was dropping items at the camp.
And so Michael J. Fox came and murdered us all swiftly.
Because I was hunted by the fox, and so I pulled a card that said, "Hey, move the Wolfman 3 spaces towards the hunted person." Moved into the space next. Then the Wolfman also had to go. Okay, cool. And then the next card after that, I believe, was the vampire card that said, "Hey, move." Oh no, we rolled an exclamation mark, which moved Dracula to our spot. So we had the Wolfman and our spot in the space with all 3 of us. And sure enough, whack, 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 dead. Oh, we're all dead. Oh, great. We were doing pretty well until I blew it. Until I blew it.
But no, the game, it's a lot of fun. It's very simple, but it looks great too. It's very easy to read.
Yeah.
It feels really good to actually, getting villagers to the spots and getting these powerful one-time use cards. Like everything that you're trying to attempt to do in this game has a good feedback. It feels good to actually take all the actions in this game. Working together is something you don't get to do a lot, which is always great. And like you said, it's a pure cooperative game, which you don't find very often. But I actually like that this game seemed very challenging, even just on the base standard difficulty. If we only came down to the last 2 cards in the deck, and if that deck runs out, we lose the game essentially. So
I thought it was quite deceptive in both its simplicity and its complexity. Like as you said, the board itself. I mean, all the pieces and everything, they're all well designed. The board is very simple. There's no iconography on the actual board itself, but all the iconography happens on the monster cards, and even that is very simple to understand. Like I think you explained one of them, and I went, "Oh yeah, cool, bang, 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 bang." Yeah, but I got like the rest of them it made sense straight away, and they're all very different. Like they each have their own solves. But yeah, like I didn't realize that we were coming up on the end game. I thought at first I was like, this is going too easy. But then we look, we've got 4 rounds left, and we will lose the game.
Well, Ralph didn't actually explain that at the beginning of the game, which is the game is on a timer. So you have a monster deck, and if you have to draw a monster card, then you can't.
Enough. You didn't explain.
Well, no, but that's also.
I stroke fear into everyone though.
But also, it was that injection of, oh god, we really actually have to kind of get a move on, because we were kind of like playing it safe, and then all of a sudden
even if it had been explained, I don't think that would have changed our game.
No, it wouldn't. No.
So what's really cool, like. Yeah, we did well, and like if we won it with 3 monsters, if we win it again with 3 monsters, and we want a bit more of a step up, you add the 4th in there, and then you're like, oh, we really don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it really adds up. But what's cool about it is it's so simple. It really is a kid's game. You can play this with kids with 2 monsters, and they'll feel like it's really challenging and interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Ruff, you mentioned quarterbacking. Now, we know what quarterbacking is, but for people who may be listening and I don't understand that concept, what do you like? I know that can be a conflict sort of game, so let's explain that for them.
So I'll just explain the term is coined from NFL, American football, or gridiron. It's where the quarterback basically calls the play and the rest of the team does the thing. Quarterbacking in board games terms is the player who's the most experienced at the game. In this instance, it was myself. I could tell everyone what to do so we win the game. But I was trying not to do that to make sure other people had an enjoyable experience with the game. So I just made subtle suggestions here and there. And I've played a lot of a game called Pandemic, which is a similar vibe to this. I would say it's the next step up from Horrified. So playing Pandemic with completely new players, me and my wife would just, sit back and kind of watch and let people think about the puzzle in front of them.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what quarterbacking is when someone wants to overtake the game and basically play it as a single player experience.
Yeah.
I found this game though as well. I mean, you were very good at it, but it did allow a lot of people to think out their turns and go, well, I'm going to do this, and then and we all had a discussion. Go, oh, is that the best thing? And then we were all like, okay, well, what if we did this? And we're like, oh yeah, we did that. I will say, you did mention Pandemic. I actually prefer this over Pandemic.
Oh, okay.
I like Pandemic, but I feel like this game, from a theme standpoint, granted the way that it works, I kind of enjoyed it a lot more. Granted, Pandemic has a lot to say about its outbreak mechanic, which we will be talking about that as a gateway game of the week in the future.
Oh, for sure. I can't wait to play
I can't do it.
Let me quarterback the shit out of it.
and so the outbreak mechanic, which Pandemic uses, is actually used in quite a few other games now, which is actually really cool. But I actually prefer this over Pandemic.
I was going to say about Horrified, like I really love the game. I've owned it for a few years now. There is a different version of it with different monsters, but the game flows pretty similarly. I feel like they missed an opportunity with the Invisible Man. When I got the game, I thought the man was actually invisible and not a proper meeple that you put out.
I had the same thought. I thought, wouldn't this be cool if you didn't know where he was at some point?
And it's so easy to do a hidden mechanic like a game like this. Like they could have a little index card that says, okay, the Invisible Man attacks in this location, or like read how many cards are in the discard and go, oh, he's attacking the barn this turn. Like it could have happened, and then when you tell the cops, then he appears on the map or something like that. I think
cool. That's if I had to suggest, some next step for the game, possibly an expansion or something, have each, they all have their each unique way to actually defeat the monsters.
Yeah.
But have each of them have their own ability, sort of thing.
Well, they do with the exclamation mark, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't get any of that.
Rarely rolled an exclamation mark in today's
just
game.
because they all sort of move and then attack in the same sort of way, you roll the same sort of dice. But if, like you said, they all have their own, not even an attack, just a unique mechanic like that.
Yeah, well, the
adds a little bit extra.
A lot of those monster cards that you flip to activate the monster turn, they're personalized for the particular bad guy that's in your game.
Yeah.
But if we got the mummy a few times, and he does call different things to other monsters in that instance, but because we didn't play with him, you don't see that part of the game. Yeah. So there is some personality to the monsters, but I agree with you. Like they could easily be a reverse side of the monster, and then Dracula plays a little bit differently. So there's not a lot of replayability, but for what it is, the game was only like $40. It wasn't a huge investment. I think it's great.
I will say that this game is missing the fact that it's 3 years old, and this is the game that literally leads itself to movie tie-ins. Where's Ghostface? Where's Michael Myers? Where's all these guys that you know from movies? And you go, hey, today we're playing against Ghostface, Michael Myers, and the guy from Saw.
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox, right? Exactly right. But I feel like it's been out for 3 years and it is relatively cheap. If they get an expansion for an actual movie tie-in, I can't see why they couldn't be on to a good winner here. It's granted, maybe it is set in like 1850s century sort of like.
And
Gothic.
it's got that old schlock movie horror monsters.
That's
like
right.
Creature from Black Lagoon is 1940s or something. So.
Yeah, so it does, but like I do think there is a tie-in here where maybe a standalone version of Horrified. I don't know.
Yeah,
that concept has proved very very popular. We've talked about it before, the Dead by Daylight video game, which is turning into a board game. They have heaps of unique killers, but they also have a lot of the movie, like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers and all this. And every time Resident Evil, every time they bring in these killers, it brings in a very big surge of players to the game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, none of these licensed killers are in the actual board game. They only use their unique ones, but say due to licensing issues. But
actually, there's a board game called Unmatched. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's little Jurassic Park figures. So it's like, what if Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs versus Bruce Lee? Like there's a lot of cool little tie-ins to that. So I'll have to talk about that someday.
Turtles took on.
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox.
Exactly. That's what this is. Like you got Buffy versus
Wait,
dinosaurs.
now or 40 years ago?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes a big difference.
It does. Anyway, so that was our gateway game of the week, Horrified by Prospero Hall. Recommended from us, I think, across the board here.
Definitely.
I'd highly
I'd
recommend
play it
it
again.
Anyway, so we're going to continue on with our Halloween theme episode, and now we want to go through some of the games. We're just going to go around the table here, go through games that we think would make a good night good night in on a Halloween Eve or a Halloween party, whatever. And we're going to start with Blake. We're going to come to you, and we're going to start with a game that we also played tonight before we started recording the podcast called Psycho Killer.
Yeah, so I got recommended by this game by a friend at work. He picked it up, said that he had a lot of fun with this game, and it's after looking it up, I spent maybe 5 minutes looking. I thought, yeah, this is our sort of game. This would be something that we would love. So basically, you're trying to evade a psycho killer. You've got a common deck in the middle. You draw a hand of cards, and these cards, on your turn, you play as many of these cards as you want. Effects like getting rid of some injury points or getting rid of some of your unwanted cards to other players, things like that. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to draw a card. Now, there are event cards which you have to play immediately, unless certain conditions are met, which affect the game. Or you're going to draw one of the 5 Psycho Killer cards. Now, this Psycho Killer immediately means if you are holding weapon cards in your hand, they immediately go to your injury pile. And the Psycho Killer also has an injury score of +3 himself, and he goes in front of the person who draws him. And basically, once all 5 Psycho Killers are drawn, the person with the lowest injury score at the end wins the game. Plays about 15, 20 minutes. It says 30 minutes in the box. I don't see how you'd get 30 minutes out of the game.
I feel like we played for 30 minutes.
Yeah, with a teacher, I wasn't really sure because
Sure.
like the different rules I've seen online, and
I think once we had the hang of it,
yeah,
if we had to play it again, it would probably be 15, 20 max.
These rules did say to not start with a hand of cards, but I've seen ones where you start with a hand. I think they'd quit in the game.
Yeah, I think the confusing thing for when you play games, there were a couple of things that off the bat kind of confused us, just because your turn ends when you draw a card. So you draw a card, and then you're like, your mind wants to go draw a card, play a card, and so you're like, no, I've drawn a card, I have to actually stop now. But it is also really one of those funny things because you're holding weapon cards in your hand to try and you want to try and get rid of them, but you're also holding on to cards that give you specific actions to maybe able to give cards to another player. I mean, the event cards are really funny. I mean, I got an event card in the third turn, which was like, I stepped on a twig. You made a whole bunch of noise. Everyone gives you one of their cards, and all 3 of you gave me a weapon card. So I went from having no weapon cards to having 3 in my hand immediately.
You trod on a twig, like we're being silent, and you gave our position away.
I did, and look, that is a theme for the rest of this game, that someone was cannon fodder for this group. But
you know what was interesting is that it was the first play for all of us, really, in this setup.
Yep.
And we've discussed this in the past about the discovery of the game. And like there was this kind of wave that went through all of us at various times of, oh yeah, now I'm getting it, right? Because I spent the first 4 rounds, I'm like, I don't know what this card's useful for. Why do I got this card that stops play for some reason? And it wasn't until halfway through I went, oh, okay, yeah, I get where that card that I threw away right at the beginning because I thought it was useless, where that now comes in handy to stopping you guys from stabbing me in the back and leaving me for dead. Yeah. Which we did to Nia a fair bit.
Yeah. just for context, when they said weapon cards are actually bad during this. Yeah. So basically, the more weapons you have, it has a value on it, like 5, 2, 1. Whatever that is, if it equals to 10, you're kind of on your last legs. You're left for dead, is what the game called it. And you're least likely to win because the player with the least amount of weapon cards in front of them wins the game. And I think I was the only one that understood that.
No, I understood it.
Is that how we're going to do it?
I understood that very well, thank you very much.
I can't help drawing 3 out of the 5 Psycho Killers.
It was
that was rough.
Especially one of them, which was just a random draw from the middle of the deck. But that was impressive.
One of my favourite things was that the middle of the deck draw of the Psycho Killer was hilarious. But one of my favourite things about the game is that you have a lot of cards which is like slam the door, which is like you've walked into a room and you see the killer and you slam the door shut. So basically what it is was basically take that card that you just drew and put it back on top of the deck and draw the next one. So everyone knows now, I don't necessarily want that card because it's probably a Psycho Killer. But then, so we had one Psycho Killer on our right pile, and then the kind of turn when I played Reanimate, which allowed me to remove a Psycho Killer from my pile and put it on the other pile. So everyone's sitting there going, no, I have to grab a Psycho Killer.
Yeah, I loved it when Blake played a card that says dropped my keys in your pocket, and then he gave me 2 shit cards because he dropped those cards in my pocket. That was pretty funny.
I think Ralph had the plays of the game, really, all over.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
picked up one random, but you also dropped your psycho killer back on the top deck, and the next hand literally picked it back up again because you forgot you put it back
Oh,
down.
that was Blake on me. Yeah.
That was Blake.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the game?
These,
Though?
like the flavored text on the sides on the cards, like found footage and it's got a VCR on it, or my personal favorite, the double tap card where it's got a shotgun. If you pick up a psycho killer, well, you double tap him and put him back in the deck somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that at the end of the game.
So I mean, these cards are a lot of fun. I mean, it was my first time playing it. I loved it. But what did you guys think?
I really liked it. I think I mentioned briefly there's a video game called Until Dawn, and I played through that, and this gave me a similar vibe as we were kind of learning it. The only weird thing was the mechanic was at the end of your turn you draw a card, where we're used to, when it's your turn you draw a card, but this is to signify the end of your turn. So that took us a few rounds to get to understand it, but once we did that, it just flew by.
Yeah.
I think thematically, it's a clean, smooth game as well, right? Like for tonight's theme, matches perfectly. But as its own little box, as you said, like the actual cards that you pull in, there's some funny things in there, right?
Yeah.
Some funny horror movie tropes
And ways to trip everyone else up.
Yeah, that's right. And it, whilst it's very competitive, ultimately, it once again has that fun vibe to it where it's not. It actually isn't backstab at each other. It's just having a bit of fun and throwing those, as you said, slam the door, hide under the bed cards down.
And I've only just noticed some of these predicament cards, like they've got references. So, you've got the tricycle from Saw, you've got, the Evil Dead, like the zombie hands coming up from the ground.
Is that the tricycle from Saw or from The Shining, I wonder?
I think it's The Shining.
What's the
For
card?
me, that's Saw. For me, that's Saw.
That's what I meant. My mind goes to, yeah.
Yeah, I look.
But could be taken either way, I suppose.
Yeah, look. Me personally, I really dig it. I think it's a perfect filler game, a perfect opener. Actually, it's not a filler; it's a great opener. This is a game where you could have a bit of a party vibe going on. You want some people who are like, "Hey, I'm going to play a game." You can go, "Hey, grab this out," and just go. How many players does it actually play up to? Like, does it actually say on the box how many plays up to? I mean, but realistically, you can play this with you can play this as many.
2 to 6.
Yes, you probably wouldn't want to play with more than 6 because then you wouldn't get a lot of action cards. But
6 is the maximum.
yeah, no, but you realistically could play it with as many people as you really wanted to because there's no hand limit. There's no, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. But in saying that, I really dig it. The designers were Michael Wilkinson and Mitch Young. And Michael Wilkinson did the art for this one and was published by Escape Tabletop Games. But Matt, you just pointed out something. I think Ralph, you just pointed well. But the game actually does come with a whole bunch of like QR codes and stuff in the menu as well. Which did you actually do that in the middle of the game? Is that what we did? Or
No, that's just a thing I do. I like to put like music on in the background that kind of suits the game we're currently playing. But the rulebook actually has a whole bunch of QR codes at the back, and one is a link to like a how to play video. The other one is a link to a Spotify playlist for the game, which I'm keen to check out actually, so I might do that.
Yeah,
cool. I really enjoyed it. I'd just like to point out on the Board Game Geek page, one of the mechanisms for this game specifically says hot potato and take that as mechanisms for this game.
I just want to say I randomly put on Psycho Killer by Talking Heads, and that's the first one. Well, I guess it is the name of the game as well. Blake, it looked like you're holding something interesting there.
Yeah, so I mean, what I wanted to point out, the thing that I love most about this game, above the game itself, is just the box art. And I mean, if you're watching the YouTube, it just looks like a video cassette tape.
That's a nice plug.
It's
Love it.
small, it fits the entire game in it. It just takes me back. Like Ralph says, takes you back to the good old days before DVDs.
Yeah.
And the game has a couple expansions at the moment, and they come in little cassette tape boxes, which is even better.
Just make sure you don't re-record over the top of this board game.
Well, it actually does say, funny you say that.
He's knocked the tap out.
It does say underneath inside, it says, do not tape over this.
Oh, really? My Judge Judy.
It reminds me.
And then on the top it says, I don't know if anyone remembers the Blockbuster days, but it says, be kind, rewind. Make sure you rewind.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Decrypto Laserdisc expansion where the box it looks like the little mini disc thing.
Like a floppy disk or something.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But I mean, the more you play this game, the more you're going to get familiar with it. But the game gives you these blank cards, so you can make up your own cards as you go along, add them in, whatever kind of flavor you're feeling.
That's cool.
Yeah,
we got to make one of them give a psycho killer to another player. Like, that's got to be fun, right?
or give the psycho killer to Matt. I think.
Yeah, double the next psycho killer you get.
And if no Matt's present at the table, send him a message.
Right, this is Matt's number.
You've just been psycho killed.
Yeah, that was a really great game. I really enjoyed it. I think
That
it's
was
a
fun.
really good opener. Anyway, but we're going to go to you, Ralph, now. We're going to go around the table, and we'd like to... Another game that you'd recommend on this Halloween night.
Yeah, there's quite a few games. I've mentioned Arkham Horror, the living card game, but I think this time I'll talk about Mansions of Madness
Ooh.
2nd edition briefly. So Mansions of Madness is a co-op game, so continuing our co-op theme. And you put massive tiles down and you're kind of in a mansion. So like the first tile might be like the entryway and some stairs and things, but that's all you see of the map physically. The game also is played with an iPad or a tablet. And it basically says, okay, well, in this room, you can go here and do an action. You can go here and do an action. I'm like, cool, I might walk over to that painting and do my action, and I get a bit of history about the house or something like that. And then, you can go to different rooms and you find the tile and you put it out there. So it's a randomly generated room in a way. And there is actually storyline missions you can play. So it's kind of like, the theme is like your cultists, summoning demons, that sort of thing. There's lots of little minifigures you can physically put on the map, and everyone's a different player with different abilities. And it's such a simple game. I think on your turn, you only do like 4 things. And the fact is, it's kind of a bit of a sandbox where you're like, oh, I'll go into this room and see what I can do. And because the game is led by this iPad, none of the players have to there's that mystery there.
Yeah.
No one read the rule book and knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So it leads to quite a few funny situations. Everyone's on a team, so there's no one going, oh, I'm just going to go to this room and release the dragon or something stupid. But the app has sound effects to it as well. So you already get that creepy atmosphere. We're playing a game where there was a riot on the streets of London, and you can hear the rioters outside ever so subtly here and there, and just as like monsters came and attacked and killed you, and it's a very story focused driven game, and I really like it.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's quite a bigger game though.
Yeah, it's a really heavy game. I'd like to talk about another heavy game that I really have enjoyed playing. I've only played it twice, but I've played the game called Fury of Dracula. And basically, if you've played Scotland Yard or these kind of hidden movement games, these asymmetric hidden movement games, it's basically the heavier version of that. And for those of you who've never played Scotland Yard or Fury of Dracula, basically one of you takes on the role of Dracula, and you're moving around the board trying to essentially complete a couple of objectives, like basically killing people, trying to go to different towns, whatever. But there is a team of hunters who are on your back, and they start in a wide open, across the lands, and each of the hunters have their own asymmetric abilities, and Dracula is trying to complete his objectives before being caught by and eventually stabbed in the heart with a stake by the hunters. And essentially, it's one of these games where Dracula, he only appears at certain times and certain parts on the map, and you as a hunter are trying to predict where Dracula is going to go, also trying to find where he's been to get clues about how he moves, what powers he may have used, and where he's going, what his objectives are. And eventually the game starts really wide and starts getting narrower and narrower and narrower as the hunters start to eventually start to go, well, he's only got one more person to kill or get to. He's going to go to that town. Let's start moving to that town to stop him at, cut him off at the pass sort of thing.
Yeah.
I really dig these sorts of games. They're not for everyone. Because one person, it's the reason why I love Treasure Island. The person who's playing Dracula, or Long John Silver in Treasure Island, or the escape, the person who's trying to escape in Scotland Yard, you're essentially the person who's escaping sometimes is having more fun than the team. Because the team, very much as we talked about with Pandemic and with games like Horrified, you can have one alpha gamer who's like, why are you going there? You need to go there because we need to stop him at the pass, and you as a hunter may not necessarily feel like you actually have a lot of options or things to do because someone's telling you what you should be doing. But if you have the right group, it's amazing. It's really fun because you feel like when you kill Dracula, you're like, yes, we did it, go team, high fives. Everyone's high fiving, it's a great time. But if you win as Dracula, you're like, yes! F you all, I got there, right?
He's giving us the finger, everyone.
Absolutely. But like, that's what the game is. So these sorts of games which really evoke this kind of chase, this very big theme of like, oh, well, as Dracula, I'm trying to get and do something. I really dig. I really think it's really good. It's a bit underrated, I think, but hidden movement games tend to be kind of hidden movement. Speaking of, we're gonna go from Dracula. We're gonna go to werewolves, Matt, and I'll get you to have a chat about One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which we have played, not the legacy version, but the
I haven't
the
played One Night Werewolf in years. Like it would have been
better than regular werewolf.
True. I remember, like, actually, I haven't done any research to even remind myself. The last time I remember playing this game was at your old place, and I think we would have had, I don't know, 15 or 16 people playing in that that tiny lounge room you used to have. And I think I was sitting on the stairs, like there were people everywhere. We were literally climbing on the bloody rafters to play this game. Every time we've played it, we've had a good time. And the more I've played other games with you guys, I've realised how simple a game it actually is in the long run.
Yeah.
And that it is a good gateway game in that, you know, it's not something that you'd have to be a gamer to enjoy. You can sit there and have that social interaction and feel like you've participated in a game and then call it a night. That's fine. But for the people who, now that I've a bit more experience with the games, looking back and the different roles you can play and the different variations, whilst they're fun, it is still, you know, it's still a one-trick pony, I suppose, at the end of the day. And maybe there are people out there listening who absolutely love it, and that's fine. I mean, there are people who absolutely love a number of the games that I seem to hate, but that's okay.
My one memory of playing One Night is I played it quite a few times. Me and one of my brothers had, and we introduced it to my youngest brother, Hayden. And we explained him the rules very quickly. You know, it's a very easy game to get into, and the concept of the game, what you need to do. He picked up his role, and then very confidently, straight up, you know, he announced. We all said, "Okay, well, what are you?" And he goes, "I'm the werewolf." And we all look at him and go, "You know, that's a bad thing, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I know." It was just such a big dick play, straight up out of nowhere, not knowing anything about the game. First round,
I think this was the first game that I'd played in a modern era that had an app as well. That was impressive when we first played.
Werewolves, open your eyes.
Yes.
Oh, that's werewolves.
No, this is on One Night Ultimate Werewolf. So One Night Ultimate Werewolf takes the werewolf mafia, you know, format and basically condenses it down to one night. Now you need to have either a game master / an app.
You also need at least 9 or 10 players.
Yeah, we found
like we played
at
it
about
with 6 or
8 is a
7.
sweet spot. I think 8 and above is a sweet spot, but you really need that. And so everyone gets their roles, but 3 roles go hidden face down in the center of the table. So you don't know what they are, but the seer has the option to look at cards. The werewolves know who the werewolves are. The minions know who the werewolves are.
The app tells you, who what to do.
Joker, open your eyes and swap your card. Something.
I think it was the first game that had a digital component that wasn't just like Atmosphere, was a playthrough, right? It was the same thing each time, right? I mean, even the DVD skipped around. Once you'd played it, it was done. This one, there are a number of different add-on cards and things you could throw in to change it. And on the app, you say, well, these are the ones we're playing with, and it'll adjust the gameplay to suit. And I think it would have been 2015, 14 when we first played it, and that was pretty cool, right? That was cool. Apps are coming to games, and like we've got this crossover now between the digital and the real world. That was really, really cool.
I definitely think it's an underutilized part of games. You know, there's a lot of these games that try to, and they come up with creative ways to hide certain bits of information. So especially games where you're playing against the game in these cooperative sort of scenarios. But having an app being able to do things like Search of Planet X, that's the thing that I think it has over a game like Cryptid. It's part of the app, so the app knows where it is.
And it's that extra layer of immersion, like the background noise in Cryptid, or like the howling wind in One Night Werewolf. Like it just adds that extra atmosphere for you.
Like definitely. Mansions of Madness, the first edition, was like a one versus many, like Fury of Dracula, where one person was kind of the DM. Well, it wasn't one versus many. They were the DM. They were running the game for everyone else. But the second edition has the app which runs the game, it builds the house, and it creates that mystery, which makes it a real good horror type game.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and what I love about One Night Ultimate Werewolf is that it takes that format as we said, but it condenses into one night. So even if you die, you're not out of the game. You can just you can rinse and repeat. It plays in 10 minutes. You play it again. One of my best plays I ever did was I was playing the Tanner, and the Tanner is the person that wants to be shot. And I remember it was either you or your sister Kate, and I think it was Kate, and she goes, everyone here who's not a werewolf, raise your hand or something. And then I knew what was happening immediately, but I went to raise my hand and quickly jotted it down. Everyone looked at me and went, you're an idiot, right? And they all went to kill me, and I'm like, you're all idiots, I'm the Tanner, right? And I was like, oh, no way. But like, when that happens, it's like the game then becomes the werewolves now need to not let the Tanner get shot, but they also can't incriminate themselves.
Yeah.
Like, well, how do you know he's the Tanner? But you mentioned, Ralph, you mentioned a game. I really recommend One Night Ultimate Werewolf, but my next favorite game on top of this is Werewords, which takes that format and makes it a word guessing game, which I love. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of that one?
So again, it's a very similar app, probably published by the same person.
It's Mayfair Games, I believe. Mayfair Games.
So essentially, one person is the mayor, and they know what the word is. It can be any word, really, but the app kind of tells you what the word is. Then the mayor closes their eyes, and the app says, "Seer, open your eyes," and the seer has to then gets to see what the word is. And then the werewolves generally it's a team of werewolves. They wake up and they look at each other. They know what team they're on. They're the evil team. They got to make sure that no one guesses the word. But the seer knows the word, and they have to communicate like just through their guesses, what the word is. So the other players, they're kind of townspeople, they have to guess what the word is. So the mayor's, when you take a guess, the mayor says, yes, that's similar. Like that's a good. You're hot, basically. It's hot, a game of hot or cold, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't played it in a long time. How did I go?
It's one of my favorites. I love it because the mayor cannot talk. They can only speak in the pods.
Yes, that's
the
right.
The mayor can only speak in yes, no, and then there's like really no.
Yeah, you're
and
way
also
off.
really yes, like ding, 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 ding. Yes, you're on the right track, right? And so the werewolves, they're trying to obviously stop you from getting there, but the seer is also trying to get you there.
Do the werewolves know the word?
Yes, the werewolves and the seer all know the word because they are obviously trying to stop you from getting there. But at the end of the game, if the townsfolk guess the word, then the werewolves get to have a shot at who the seer is. And if the werewolves guess it correctly, they immediately win. So the seer is trying to
they're trying to stay hidden.
Steer people. It's like,
Without
for
being
example,
too obvious.
so like if the word was like raspberry milkshake, for example, right? And we're just off in the world of Greek mythology. How do you start saying yes or no questions to bring them back towards like we're completely in the wrong area, right? I love it because it takes the werewolf formula of okay. You know the roles. If you've played werewolf, you know all the roles: the seer, the demons, the minions, etc. Except it just basically turns into a word guessing game.
Yeah, and it plays quickly, like less than 5 minutes is a round.
Yeah, 6 minutes. But you have that like when we talked about Pictomania a couple of weeks ago. It has the easy words, which is like cat, dog, whatever. But then you have the hard words like pantheon, right? Emotion, right? How do you get them to get emotion, bro? I really love that. I think it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite, werewolf themed games. It absolutely trounces the rest of them, I think.
And I just want to say, I almost got through a whole episode without talking about Blood on the Clock Tower.
There it is.
However,
here we go.
We need a bell for this.
No, I think so. Like just a counter of how many times Ralph brings it up.
We need a jar that he has to put money in.
Yeah, but you mentioned like in One Night Ultimate Werewolf, you played a role where you wanted to die. There's actually a role called the Raven Keeper. Was if the demon kills you, you get a really powerful ability. So it's kind of playing that bit of cat and mouse. But Blood on the Clock Tower is like an amazing horror themed. It's purely werewolf themed, and everyone has a role to play in the town. Like you're this character, and like it's so cool.
If there ever was a night to talk about Blood on the Clock Tower, it would be this one, right?
No, it's every night. It's every night. Yeah,
You need to go back and have a listen to the
This is my foreplay at home.
God.
That is one of the disappointing parts about One Night. You flip over your card and it's like villager. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, every time that I play One Night Ultimate Werewolf, the first game with new players has villagers just to allow them to have the opportunity. But every game after that, I always immediately take all villagers out and go, everyone gets a roll.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a roll.
I bought 1 week Ultimate Werewolf and I gave it to Nee we were going to play it once, and he read through the rules and went, I don't think I actually want to play this after reading the rules.
Oh,
We've
okay.
never gotten it out.
We have to get it out and play it. It does look like it because it plays over 5 nights, but it takes the whole formula and says, okay, but now we're moving around like a house, like Cluedo.
Is that the legacy one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So we need to have that a go. So look, with that, we're going to start wrapping up the episode, but we do want to give out a quick shout out to some honourable mentions that we didn't talk about tonight, but these were the ones that we wanted to talk about. But some honourable mentions to the game of Mysterium, which is basically
that's fun.
which is a really good one, which is one player as a ghost, and you're basically trying to get the other players to guess essentially artwork, but you're not allowed to.
It's kind of like that the other players have to guess who murdered you. So you're giving out clues as a ghost, which is cool.
But you're only allowed to draw, and not allowed to
no, you get cards.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like
like Dixit. It's like
Dixit.
Dixit.
That's right. Exactly right. The other one that we wanted to shout out, which is like this Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. So if you're like stomping on cultists and stopping Cthulhu from outbreaking in the world, that'd be potentially a one for you. Also, the Zombicide series. So for our zombie fans out there, basically, if you want to be in an action zombie movie, Zombicide's probably the game for you.
It's Left 4 Dead, but in board game version. That was one of the first modern board games I had, so it's got a special place in my heart for that one.
Not the ones that I owned, but one of my friends showed it to me. This is about 12 or 13 years ago, and I went, wow, this is really cool.
I painted most of my set, and I've still got it. Like, it's still... that's my beer and pretzel game.
And where would we be without the classic atmosphere? We've talked about it before, but Blake's...
I love this game. If anyone asked me to get out the game, I would get it out straight away, put it straight on.
You got it in the car,
They're actually doing an anniversary edition of the VHS version, like
I would
a
love
30th
to play
year.
that,
of
I need
the
a
original.
VHS player, but...
Well, we'll have to keep our eyes out for that.
Well, they remaking it or just remastering it?
Remastering it, I think. Yeah, just redoing it.
Well, it's fine whenever they remake it with I'm assuming the guy who originally played the gatekeeper.
So he was awesome. He was a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, but it has the right amount of silliness and campness that it's still fun, right? But then you remake it and it's just all too silly. You're like, I don't like
the
this.
DVD one was a bit more on the... Well, I wouldn't say silly side, but he's more, trying to roast you rather than actually scare you.
Yeah, that's right.
Which can be funny in a different way. And the new one that they came out with, which I bought not long ago, it's got an app for it.
Oh, cool.
But that one's almost fully CGI, and it's not as
just
good.
not the same.
Yeah, it's just not the same.
Also, just one more honourable mention. We had this on the cast a few episodes back, but Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Yes.
For sure.
Again, it can fall flat where sometimes you're the traitor and you're really powerful and the survivors are really weak and vice versa, but it is...
Gives me that Cabin in the Woods vibe if anyone's seen that movie.
That's
which
a great
is,
movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah, look, I've had good games, I've had bad games of it, but it is one of the most thematic sort of like horror monster sort of board games that we do have.
That's like the TV show American Horror Story sort of thing. Every season's a different sort of twist, and it's great.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's going to do us for today on this Halloween themed episode. Halloween themed episode.
Oh, we're doing weed now.
Oh, jeez.
That'd be an interesting episode.
Oh, God.
Man, we're Elon Musk now.
Don't get us started now. If you enjoyed what you've been listening to, please go check out our website, boardgamegateway.com. Go check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/boardgamegateway. We post all of our stuff there and also the fun stuff. Also, go check out our YouTube channel. Just type in Board Game Gateway, you'll find us there with the logo. On behalf of myself and my 3 co-hosts, Matt, Ralph, and Blake, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode.
Always a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Ooh, scary at the end there.
That does me.